Okay, welcome, ladies. This is our first Menopause Monday in December. I cannot believe that we are in December already. Natalie, Michelle,
I,
it's like,
oh my God.
no,
I
I'm really
cannot
not.
believe
No,
the year is over. It's December.
but the last month is going to bring nothing but love and blessings for us all. I just feel it. It's going to be a good Christmas. We have to bring that out into the universe. Without a doubt.
I'm taking
Okay,
it.
so let's get started. So this afternoon, we have an amazing guest, Michelle Gordon. And I'm going to just read a quick bio of yours because I didn't really know exactly what you did until I went onto your webpage and really dug into it. And I thought, this is amazing what you do. I think it's incredible. But you created Boss Mom Network in 2014, and it is designed to make online and physical connections from mom entrepreneurs. I said it right, as they share a common goal of developing their businesses while simultaneously parenting their children. And I love that because I think this is the way women, that's where we're supposed to be going. You're also the founding editor of B3 Parenting Magazine, and this is the Caribbean's first dedicated lifestyle magazine for parents. You're the creative Island Child Style, Bold Girl, and Our Sons, all confidence building and youth development platforms for children. I just absolutely love all of these because not only you're empowering women, you're empowering children. And I think that that is incredible. So today's topic is going to be about parenting in menopause. So welcome, Michelle. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And thanks. This is such a great platform that you guys have created. I think just being able to talk about what we're going through, that's what we need. It's as simple as that. Just being able to ask for questions and get answers and just shoot the breeze sometimes. It really helps to normalize what we're going through. That's important.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, great. Well, welcome. So let's just dive straight in. And when I was your talking points that you've given us, and I was also doing our my own research, and we see that women are having kids later on in life. This is just happening. Even in my children's generation, I mean, they're older. They're going to be having their kids when they're in their 30s, probably closer to the 40s. So, which means they're more likely that they are going to be in either perimenopause, close to menopause while still actively parenting. So
Young
it's about
children.
young children, and I think we see it with our friends now. So, you know, being able to balance that, what are some things to consider? I mean, how do we do this? As Natalie was sharing with you earlier, you're in a panic attack or you're in a upset or whatever, and your kids are coming at you. What can you do?
So, I mean, there's so many things and there's so many things that we can do. But I think the very first thing is to understand where we're at personally. So let's ignore the kids for a minute, even though I know we're talking about parenting, but let's ignore the kids for a minute. Let's ignore the spouse, the friends, whatever it is. We have to understand the journey that we're on and the changes that are coming. Now, when it wasn't until recently, because I mean, if we're on social media and stuff, you'll find that if you're at this age and stage, it's almost like an algorithm and you're seeing a lot more menopause stuff in our feeds. And honestly, I mean, I knew that I'm menopause at this age and stage, but it's not until I started to read up a little bit more and friends would say, oh my God, this is happening to me. And we realized that we were here at perimenopause, that I started to realize that I've been going through a lot of the symptoms for many years, over 10 years, and I didn't know what was happening. So that said, now that I think I have a better understanding of what my body is going through and the changes, I'm able to realize that, but hold on there, I had this argument with a friend, or my son and I weren't speaking, and I'm like, but there was no good reason for it other than my temperamental behavior. And then it's reactionary, or relationships are all reactionary. So I think when we realize, first of all, that we are changing, you understand? Then we're able to be more aware of when things are going wrong and we can stop them. We can try to stop them from going wrong. Um, I think the very first thing that I realized that what was happening to me was that my sleep was going off. And it wasn't going off because I wasn't sleeping. I was sleeping, but I was having When I tell you I had 2 years of crazy dreams that I thought I'm like, what the hell is going on? Am I eating too late? I'm thinking about Jamaican, so when you eat too late, you will have nightmares. But so many things were happening and my sleep was
Yes.
completely interrupted. Um, and I found that when I'd wake up in the morning, having lacked proper sleep during the night, I was a dragon. I was an absolute dragon with my kids, just shouting at them and screaming at them. And then that became a battlefield. So the mornings were terrible for us until I started to realize that no, something is going wrong. Let's figure this out. So it was really just arming myself with the ammunition to be able to defend the relationships around me. So the first thing, we have to figure out where we are. That's number one. And then the next thing for me, and it's just one of the tenets for me with just a parenting journey, once your children are at a stage where they can understand, is just to have really, really open conversations with them. Just say, and as I said, it's age dependent. We have to be age appropriate in the conversations that we have with them. But just sitting them down one day and saying, look, when I mean, it happened to me at a time when my kids were a little bit older. So I was able to say to them, the same way you entered puberty and you remember you were going through these changes, I said, it's almost like puberty for me again. Not really, but it's a change in what I've known for such a very long period of time. And my body is changing. Trying to understand just the physiological differences for us now is mind blowing, but I try to do it with them. I remember when certain things started happening to me, and I actually called my mother to say, Mommy, how was this for you? And she actually didn't even realize it. No, my mom is 75. So that means she would have entered this phase at least 30, maybe, yeah, 30 plus years ago. She wasn't aware because they didn't have those conversations at all. So she doesn't really have a vivid memory of the perimenopause or the menopausal period. She knew that her period would have stopped, but she didn't know. When I tell her about the things I'm going through, those are all foreign to her. So she wasn't able to educate me as her child or my sister. She wasn't able to help us. So when we entered that stage, we were completely clueless because these were not conversations that were had at home. And I made up my mind that I'm not going to do the same thing to my children, son and daughter. I mean, we think it's just something that we need to share with our girls, but the boys have to know too. I mean, I'd love for you, I mean, jumping to something completely different, but if you have a menopause Mondays one, it's just for men because they're the men in their lives.
It's coming.
Excellent. Because they're the ones who think, oh, well, she's going crazy. She's, the women become marginalized during this period in the eyes of the men because we start doing things differently and think we're going mad. All sorts of things are happening. So they need this same way we need to educate our children. I think the same way we need to educate our men.
Yeah.
So let's back up. One, we have to know where we are, and two, open communication with the children so that they are on this journey with us. And they say, when we're not crazy to them, maybe they can actually pick up the damn toys off the floor or tidy their room so that it doesn't aggravate that much. Those are the little things. It's almost like we're now in a give and take thing. This is what's happening to me. I need your help on this journey. You understand? So I found that worked for me in the latter part when I realized what was happening. But open communication is always good. And then they'll come to me, and I've actually heard them laughing. Yeah, okay, that's a perimenopause mommy. They laugh about it. That's mommy in menopause phase, or it's a menopause thing. What? They know.
They know. Yeah, and I think that's really important. And as I was sharing with you earlier, one of the things that for me it makes me wonder, because when we're going through these symptoms and we're feeling the irritability and the overwhelm, and then managing, like, nobody told me, Michelle, that we didn't have to take care of the kids forever. Like, I thought we fed them and clothed them and educated them, and then they were adults.
And then they leave and not.
Yeah. But now I have an adult child, and I'm still, I mean, she's amazing. All my children are amazing, and everybody's children are amazing, because that's just the way things go when you love your kids, right? But they still bring different dynamics. They bring different demands that draw on you. I saw something online that really resonated with me, and it said that the prefrontal cortex of a person doesn't develop until they are 23, 22, 23. And therefore, for those first 23 years of your child's life, you are their prefrontal cortex. And that's their decision making about relationships and engagement and interrelations. So that's why the emotional drain continues to be so strong. So we're dealing with our emotional drain, our irritability, and our overwhelm, and our midlife crisis, and where are we going? And then we still have their stuff to manage, you know.
Right.
And I shared with you that whenever I'm in that moment and I tell my kids this is what I'm going through, I wonder if I'm doing them harm, you know, or am I scarring them in some way? Am I appearing weak to them in some way? Am I destroying their view of me some way? And I think that's the thing that I don't think I'm unique in this struggle. Like I think most women who want to be strong, powerful mompreneurs, we want to be, I get it done. You know, and here we are expressing vulnerability to the little creatures that we created who have always thought that we are the super person in their life, you know?
You know, Natalie, I think that, well, for me, there's so much strength in vulnerability. And it makes
Mm.
it's such a paradox, but I think knowing that your mom has a struggle and you see her going through, it's just such a human process. And when she does overcome it, that is where a lot of the inspiration comes for our children. Thinking that mommy is perfectly strong, she does everything all the time, she's wealthy as ever, so she never has to work or whatever it is. All of thinking that she's living in a constant nirvana, I don't see the inspiration there. I don't see it. The inspiration comes when your daughter will turn around and say to me, mommy, I remember when you were, setting up the business and you had the sleepless nights and look at you now, you've done it. That's where the inspiration comes from.
Mm.
So turning to your children and sharing struggles, as I said, everything is all age appropriate and content appropriate. But when we invite them into that space where we're vulnerable, that gives them the strength to realize that when they end up in challenges and difficult situations, that it's not an easy fix. You have to fight through it. And that's where I believe they grow. There's so much growth in that space. Think about it. If we think that everything is so easy because mommy makes it look easy, and when it now becomes hard for us and we're failing, then we're thinking something is wrong with us. Our benchmark is not a realistic benchmark that we set for our kids if they think that everything just comes. They have to see the struggle.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it is you make a shift from at a certain age when you have adult kids, you make a shift from what I call parenting to mentoring. Because as your kids, as they get older, I have three grown kids, they definitely need me, but they need me in a different role. They don't need me in that parenting, fussing, making sure they have all of their things. They don't want me in that role. They want me in a role of mentoring. This is what I did. Perhaps you try this, almost like a coach to them. But in that, when I am vulnerable with my older kids and have that conversation that, look, I don't have my shit together. I don't feel like I feel like I'm struggling. They will then turn around and be the support for me and in those moments. And that's where that mentoring relationship is. So when you deal with the menopause and as you said, older children, younger children, it's age appropriate, you have to learn how to communicate. And that's where communication in my eyes see communication with whatever age you're dealing with is important because what message do you want to give them? Vulnerability, but strength at the same time. So if you talk about that, let's talk a little bit about teenagehood, then, if you will, puberty and menopause in the household. You're dealing with two puberties, as you mentioned earlier.
Correct.
Two monsters.
Yeah. What it means to, as a mother or as a parent or as a woman, we have to be able to not stoop to their level. How do we communicate that to them? How do we ride out their temper tantrums or their teenage So, what advice would you give women who are in that situation where you're dealing with puberty and menopause in the household?
But I think the first thing I'd say, I'd start from the back and work backwards because we've all made those mistakes. We've lost it with them. We've not we've not risen to their level. We've gone below their level sometimes. So I think the first thing there, once again, it's a moment of vulnerability, is to apologize. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I was wrong. There is strength in our apologizing, and it's teaching them a level of humility. So we apologize to them. And I find for me, it's sometimes I just say as simple as, I need your help. Help me to work this out. I'm struggling just as much as you're struggling. Um, it will always come back to just accepting where we are, looking ourselves in the mirror, and coming up with some practical steps. One would be, if I know that this is a particular trigger, we have to identify what those triggers are. My trigger personally is my daughter's room. I've never seen anything like it. She's gifted. She's gifted in her ability to look like hurricanes visit her room every day. And I lose it. And I just get to the point now where I say to her, look, this is a part of your she has certain goals. She'll, creates her, what you call it, her vision board. I said, you want to achieve certain things in life. Let us start here. And I share the articles or share the memes, that talk about making your bed and all of those things. So it's always just a conversation for us to go through and see it step by step. We get to the stage where it can't be a directive. Do this because I say so. That doesn't work anymore. Our kids are far more advanced in their thinking. So I always, once again, it's going to come back to having those conversations. But I would say, well, another tactic would be, outside of having those conversations with us, is setting goals. I try to do it, I'm not as disciplined as I'd like to be when it comes to that, but it's almost like, let us do it on an achievement basis. You know that you have tests at school and you want to pass them, so you're going to study for them. This is the same kind of thing. These are the things that we want to accomplish. And just guiding them when she's, and I think every teenager would go through this, when they are scared, when they're having issues with their friends, when it's overwhelmed at school, I say to her, let us sit down and figure this one out step by step. I'm always saying to her, don't ever be afraid to come to me. I don't care what the issue is. I don't know if I think you both have girls. The issues I find that have come up a lot during this phase is friendship issues.
Mm-hmm.
Who works with who. And I've always tried to help her to be her own compass and not to follow someone else. So when it comes to those little things, it has to be we pull out individual issues that she's having. And I would recommend that to any parent. Just sit with your daughter or your son for that matter. If it's temper tantrums, try and get to the root of it and help them to work through it. It can't just be, don't shout at me or stop slamming your door. Yeah, they're not to do that because everything has to be done with a certain level of respect. But when you find that they're struggling with something, the same way we want to help, they need it as well. And we're the ones who are going to have to guide them. What is causing you to come home and slam your room door and not want to come out or not be grumpy? Let's work through it. And it's not always easy because they may not want to talk. But I think as parents, once we allow them or once we let them know that, listen, my door is always open. You may not be ready to talk now or tomorrow or next week, but when you are ready to talk, come, I'm going to be here. But sometimes we're pushing because we want to fix it right away. We kind of know how to meet them in their time, in their space, when it's comfortable, because we can't pull it out of them. We can't pull it out of them. We can't force them to choose the right friends. We can't force them to make the right decisions. We just have to guide them along the way and make sure that we're there to hold their hands when they're ready. That moment when she'll crawl in the bed at 11 o'clock at night, just to say, and she doesn't even know what to say, but she'll crawl in the bed. I might want to sleep. I'm dying because I'm menopausal and I'm dying to sleep, but I'll try and force myself to stay awake and be there for her in that moment. One thing that I had, and I learned this from another parent, it was anytime my kids are scared, and I told them from they were young, if you're scared, for whatever reason. If somebody's making me feel into anything and you're not ready to talk about it, squeeze my hand tight. You don't utter a word. And to this day, my children use it. They use it to tell me that they love me. It's just if they don't want to say it publicly, it's a tight squeeze.
Oh,
Or I want to talk to you, I'm not ready to talk to you now. And I actually learned that from my father, who was raising three daughters on his own. And he says that he didn't know how to bridge, his wife died, and he didn't know how to bridge the gap of being mommy now. And he told them that. Anytime you need to say something, just let me know that there's something that needs to come out, just not ready to release it yet. So we have that handhold, and it's worked. It's worked amazingly. And that would have been from they were 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
that's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Really?
I love
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I
Like
have to give credit to him for that, but it works. And I would share that with any parent because sometimes they don't know what to say and they don't know how to say it when they're feeling unsure. But I try to keep my doors open to when we had started going on this journey of the boys coming on the scene, or with my son, it was, when the girls were, it when we're not ready for certain things, but they're ready, we have to put aside our hang-ups and our unpreparedness, if there's such a word. We have to put that away to be ready for these conversations with them whenever they come with them.
Well, that's to me, that's as I touched on earlier, is when you switch from a parenting mode to like a mentoring or coach mode, you're able to take that emotion out of it. Because when you step up as a parent, you're just as you said, you want to fix, solve, you're embarrassed, you go into a whole emotional aspect. But when you're able to switch into almost like a coach mode, like you would do a stranger, then, if you will, when you're able to step back and let them just flood you with everything, but you're just going to stay neutral in that space, it gives them more power. It gives them that safe space because they know they're not going to get with, well, why did you do that? And how did you say that? And why didn't you, they don't want to hear that. So I love the fact that giving them the power to, if they're not ready to speak, communicate that to me somehow. And when you're ready, that gives me as a mom time to flick that switch
All
to
right.
get into that coach mode to say, all right, I'm not blindsided. Now I know how I'm going to handle this
All
situation.
right. Because sometimes that's the right word, Nikki. Sometimes we're blindsided and we're like rotted. I don't know how to deal with this one. And sometimes our reaction is the wrong reaction in the moment. And then it changes the dynamics of what they were going to say. So, this parenting for me, it's a constant learning process. And for me, the best way to learn is it's our village. We look at people around us. Those who would have gone before in the same stages, the same phases, and we just kind of pick the things that apply to our parenting styles. It's certainly not taking everything from everybody, but if we say that we can't learn from other people, then we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
I have a girlfriend we recently had a parenting conversation, and she says that she created a bubble with her son. It's called the bubble. And she said she gave him, I'm not sure when she started it, but he's 13 now. And she said to him that anything you want to come and tell me, anything, I don't care how bad it is. If you ask to be in the bubble and we are in that bubble, I cannot react. I can't punish you. I can't in that bubble space. And she says that initially it started out, but it's such a powerful tool for them. He'll come in and he'll say, he's quite witty. He'll come in and that's where they have conversations about, his penis, mommy, this is doing this. Because the bubble told him that he's not going to be judged. So
I
it's
love
just the same way she's not going to be blindsided. Just you spoke about it. When he says, mommy, bubble, she knows at that point, she's like, right, we don't want the bubble right now,
Zip it. She just has
She
to
can't do it.
listen and then decide how when they're not in the bubble. But taking something from a guest that shared with us about the pause, and this is something that I'm learning to do not only with my kids. I mean, as I said, I've grown kids, but with my husband and my friends, in that when the emotions start to take the better of me, if you will, taking that moment to pause in the word menopause, taking that moment to pause. And I know I do this with my kids where if I am not in a space to receive or give, I put myself in that pause moment. So I will respond in a way to say, listen, let me get back to you on that by the end of the day, or can we discuss this again tomorrow? Or is, you know what I mean? So it gives me time in that pause to what's going on with the emotions? How do I
To
want
figure
to
it out.
show to figure it out? And how do I want to show up for this person?
Yeah, yeah. I remember growing up, my mother used to say, like, when you get angry, just count down from 10.
Same thing.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. It's the pause. The pause that
Yes,
allows you time to figure it out really
to know
and
that you're
prevent
really
you from
you're making a decision
Yeah.
as opposed to reacting.
or to prevent you from making an emotional response. When we respond to things emotionally, whether it's in anger, in extreme joy and love, whatever it is, sometimes it's a hormone, it's the emotion that's responding and not our intelligent emotional
Yeah,
side.
yeah,
We
yeah.
have to figure out. And I think in having these conversations with our children, we're teaching them how to regulate their emotional intelligence. It doesn't always have to be reactionary. And you'll see that I find that if you look in the news now and what's happening with kids in school, it's so easy for a child to pick up a pen and stab another child because they're lacking that emotional intelligence. They're not doing that pause.
Yeah.
That's the pause that we need to probably share with our children a little bit more, practice it more as parents, as mothers. Um, so we don't fly off the handle so much, and so we don't have to turn around and say I'm sorry so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle,
I love
you
that.
said that I love that too, that pause that where you get to pick your response. You say that you encourage your children through an awareness that your door is always open, right?
Yeah.
As a mompreneur, right? So you are an entrepreneur, you're a mom, and you are the primary, right, caregiver and support
I
system
am.
in the house, right? Um, there's a struggle between I've got to meet this deadline and my child needs to talk, and it's all shrouded with, and I'm overwhelmed because of my perimenopausal state. How do you how do you like navigate that multiple? We've all seen that meme of that woman sitting in the yoga pose and she's got like 8 different hands and she's being pulled in, and then there's still you that needs the centering. How do you navigate that? I'm not talking about long term because long term we can plan. But in a moment when you are feeling overwhelmed and you are working on a deadline and then your child comes in tears in your door and needs mom, how do you navigate that tight situation, that tight, intense situation?
I mean, I can answer this very honestly because it's happened to me so often. But I have to gauge her level of severity or his level. I mean, I'm referring to my daughter now because she's the one who's home. My son is away, so I have less of that interaction. But I will say, when I gauge it, if I say if those tears are streaming, those are real tears, those are active tears, I'll stop. I'll have to stop and say, Amanda, I'm under pressure, but I can't, what is happening? And deal with it right away because I don't want to, you can't put her feelings on pause.
Right.
To take 10 minutes, 15 minutes from work, I'll try and do that. Honestly, you have to figure that out. Sometimes if she's coming just because she wants to chat about the fight that she and the friends had or whatever, I'm like, not right now. So it's up to me to use to gauge
Like
it.
a
And
triage.
yeah, let's figure out what's your SOPs, what's the most important thing right now. Honestly, because if I have this deadline that's gonna pay your school fees, sweetheart, hang on a minute. But in doing all of that, I think my kids are at the stage where they understand that I work for myself. It's not being handed to me on a platter. So they understand. I remember my son was maybe about 11 at the time, and he told me, he said, "Mommy, why don't you just go and get a job? Just go and get, just go and work at the bank or go and do so and so like everybody else so that we can do the family vacations and you can get your pay."
Aww.
Because for him, he didn't like to see this kind of late nights and he didn't like to see the struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're very aware. They're aware. If my child comes to me and I see that their pain is intense and it is immediate, it requires immediate action, I will stop. I will take that
Yeah,
break.
I think that's important. I mean, I know for me, I'm not with my kids all the time. I mean, they live in Kingston, but I know when the message comes in, I'm able to say, okay, do I need to put a pause in what I'm doing to speak to you, or can we talk later? And immediately I know how to gauge it. And if it is, yes,
Correct.
mom, I need you now, whether I'm in the
Then you
middle of
have
a
to
coaching
go.
call, then I gotta go. That's just
Yeah.
how I am. But let's switch gears a little bit because I think it's important. You touched on, I think Natalie touched on it a while ago, which was single parents, single mothers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different dynamic because generally we have support of partners. So I want us to talk a little bit about how do we empower single mothers to do all of this? Because I think most of us will have a backative to say, listen, go to your father, or your father's going to deal with this or whatever.
Right.
So that's my first question is about that. And the second one is the ones that do have partners. If their partners or husbands are not supporting them and are being critical of us, you're always in a bad mood. You're screaming at the kids. You don't have your shit together. Why, just calm down. How do we communicate to our partners? Listen, we're on the same team here. We need to make sure that we find a united front to deal with this. So those are my two angles. The single mother, how do we empower them to do this all on their own? And the partners, how do we communicate to our partners?
So, okay, so to answer the one about the partners, I think it's always important in any relationship to understand what your communication skills are. What's your love language? How do you speak to your partner in a way that you get the best response? So sharing that, look, I'm going through this particular period. It's one thing to be going through all of the things that we're going through and pretending that we're managing, as opposed to sharing, look, I'm not managing and I need your help. I don't need someone, I need your help. So I think those conversations, I really believe in these open and honest conversations in the context of any type of relationship. So that would be my answer to that. And the truth is, I'm not the best person to speak on that because I have had full autonomy for the most part in raising my children. So I've been looking to me for the same help. I do have a strong village. So to jump to the single parent question, I would say to any single mother, if you think you can do it by yourself, you're fooling yourself and you're going to set yourself up for stress and nothing but very, very difficult periods. It is most important that anyone who's doing this on their own, whether a mother or a father, because they exist, you have to find a village. And you can curate a village. And it may sound away, but we can curate a village. Look at the people who, the same way you're going to choose a spouse or a partner who has qualities that you want your children to emulate and you want that person to guide your children. It's the same people that you're going to be choosing to be a part of your village who can help you on your journey. You have similar goals, you have similar, your moral compasses tend to be pointed in the same direction. So these are going to be friends. It could be parents at school who you see how they're raising their kids, and there's nothing wrong with sharing with them that, I'd love for you to be able to help me sometimes, maybe picking up my kids from school, whatever it is. I'm not trying to create scenarios, but when I say curate your village, select people to be a part of your extended family and to share in the responsibility of raising your children. You can't force them. So when I say responsibility, because it is a responsibility. And it's the same way, I don't know if you are from a faith that uses godparents. When we have a godparent, you are asking that person to step in to help you to raise your children when the time comes or whenever it's necessary. And I think it's the same thing with a village. So we're now finding co-workers who can probably cover a shift at work, or a partner at the gym, help them to help you be accountable so that you are in the best mental and physical health to help your children. All of those things. Sometimes it's the friendships that your children form on their own, their parents can be very, very helpful in our journey. But I would say to any single mother, find a village, because that village is going to save you from yourself eventually.
So true.
And this is for someone, obviously, if you don't have, if some people aren't from a big family, or if you don't have your parents, or if you don't have that physical family structure, we have to create it for ourselves. But it's just important who we pull into that circle. We have to vet them. We have to ensure that their love and care for our children and for us is authentic. It's pure. There's no motive behind it. So that our children can have the best experience, as if it's, I have three mothers, I have three fathers, I have these people who love me and I know that they're going to be there for me. That's important. But
I love
single
that.
mother, it's so important.
The fact that you talked about your friend, that your children's friends being a huge source if they're a good friend. I mean, I know personally for me, my two of my best friends now, I only met them when our kids were at building blocks together, and we are
Right.
now best friends. And my daughters will tell you that it's like a second mom to them, that she's a second mom to them because of that. And building, even though I was married and had a husband and everything, having that different source of support. It's a different type because men support us in a completely different way, but a woman will support us in a different way. So I
Yeah.
think finding that as a single mother, because a lot of women are like, I don't know where to start. How do I do that? Do I? But I think starting with your kids and who they gravitate towards, because we kind of have to follow that lead on who
You have
they're
to follow that.
gravitating towards, because that's where it's aligned. So I love
You
that.
see, I find that our children choose friends who, they're a lot purer in their friend selection than adults. They find people, or they mesh with people who fit them. Or on the contrary, there are cases where they find friends who they're filling a need that may not be filled in some other way, shape, or form. So that now we also have to be careful of, because if you ever have a child, have you ever had your kid has a friend who you just don't like? There's a reason why that friend is there. That friend is something for your child that they're feeling a need. So we also, and just being a part of that process. I will never turn to my child and say, you can't be friends with that person. That's not going to work. But I would always try to figure out, I invite the kids around. And luckily, I think we're all we're socialized to be such a part of our children's friendships and their relationships that it makes the process easy. I don't have to pick up the phone and call and say, okay, I hear you're friends with my daughter. Let's have a meeting. No.
Yeah.
Just a play date.
Yeah.
It happens naturally. So
Yeah.
being aware and taking the cues and finding time to get to meet the parents if it's not happening naturally. Invite them over or go somewhere with them so that you can kind of figure out what are the values and morals that my children are being exposed to outside or the sanctity of our home. Do I approve of these things? Can it work with what we're doing here? And see if that can benefit you in the long run in raising kids.
Completely agree. We and it's something again that, as with someone who has a 9 to 5, you have that evening time, you have those weekends where it lends naturally to doing things like that. As an entrepreneur, as we three are, it's very easy to work 24 hours a day except when you're sleeping, right? And I had occasion recently to be around a group of one of my daughter's friends, and I felt good. It was her birthday and we went to Buzzers, right? I felt good to see the group of people that she was interacting with. And I felt reassured that she's interacting in a group that I see why they're different. I see why the friends are there. The parents are good people, the friends are good people, and taking time out of all the other things that we have going on to curate those little moments. It is really important, because if you're not careful, somebody else is raising your kids. Somebody else, something else, and it's so much easier now to have the influence of social media raising your kids. We don't even know all the social medias that are out there that they are interacting with.
We have no clue, and we don't want to know either, because because we did an event with a gentleman by the name of Troy Kemp, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Troy. Troy has he used to be a director at Macaulay School. A lot of kids go there. It's a boarding school for boys in the States. He used to be the head of the National Center for Boys in the States. And he said to me that I was struggling at the time with my son playing video games. I don't remember the name of it, but it's and he said to me, you know, Michelle, what you need to do one day, he says, go to learn how to play the game and go play with the kid. And I'm like, what? No, I'm not doing that. But I did. And when I was doing it, I'm like, one, I said to him, Christian, let's play, and we were playing something. And I said to him, what do you get? Tell me. And he's explaining it because first of all, he was like, Mommy, no, you don't want to do this. But when we started to play it and I had questions, he was able to explain. He says, no, Mommy, this is my team. And he's explaining that I'm the team leader. And I was realizing that what he was getting out of that was that he, in his virtual world, was leading and he wasn't doing it at school. So he was enjoying that. But it took a video game for me to understand what he wants to lead. So I use that as an opportunity. And I said to him, but in order to lead, these are some of the skills a leader has. So it was just a great segue into learning about it. The game playing didn't last for too long, thank God, on that particular game, because they still play games. But it was an interesting way for me to understand, because all I was doing is like, it was too much screen time. I was cutting off his screen time. And then we were becoming confrontational because I was taking away something that was important to him. Until I learned that he was actually getting something substantive from these games. Not all of the games apply, but that's the one. But it was such a great tool for me. And I took what Troy taught me and realized that sometimes we have to do the things with them and understand what need is being met in their development and the growth stage that they're at.
Absolutely.
I found that interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Let's switch gears a little bit because Natalie touched on this with the finding those moments and that time, and that is for women. Of course, going through menopause is that self-care time. I think that it is super important that we say, oh, you know, we need to do all of these self-care things, but when you're a full-time mom and a full-time job, you know, I don't have time for that. There's just no time for that. So what do we say to women? I mean, I know what I say when I do my coaching, but you know, for a mother who's going through this, you need to prioritize that self-time, that self-care time. So what do we say to them?
I have one simple analogy for all of this. Now, I was a flight attendant for 19 years. And every day, every flight we went on, we had to do the oxygen mask drill. And in the event of a decompression, when an airplane is flying at 38,000 feet, you have 12 seconds of useful consciousness if you don't put on your own mask. 12 seconds. So the mask come down and you're there fumbling to try and put on the ones for your children and the husband or the mother, whoever you're traveling with. And in 12 seconds, you're passed out. I think it's either 12 or 15. I don't remember. That was a long time, but it's a short period of time. You're gone. And then if you're gone, the children are gone. And everybody else around you that you're caring for is gone. And I can't think of anything more powerful than that in how we treat ourselves in life in general. We have to be number one. We must. There's just no other choice. And what the only choice to me comes in the things that you're going to do to take care of yourself. I mean, if you can spa every week, then beautiful. But if you can't spa every week, maybe you can get up 15 minutes earlier every morning to have a cup of tea, to communicate with God, to stretch, whatever it is, something that is entirely you. You're not turning on the computer yet. You're not worrying about the bills that need to be paid that day. Just 15 minutes for you. I personally love the mornings before anybody else gets up because it's such a sacred time for clear thought. That works for me. It may work for someone else in a different way, but it is the most crucial thing. If you do not take care of if you don't put on our oxygen masks, we're going to die. It's as simple as that.
You know, something I've started to do, Michelle, is time things, because we tend to not do things because we think it's going to take a lot of time. right? And we think we need to invest a lot of time in something, and the self-care needs to be complicated. So I've started to do the thing that I want to do. Say it's my dry skin brushing, right? How much time does dry skin brushing really take? Because I think of it as something that's going to take up so much time in the morning, so I can't do it every day. So I create a moment when I have the time to do it, and I time it, and I'm done in 10 minutes. I can
10
do
minutes.
10 minutes. I can do 10 minutes. I can do 10 minutes almost every morning, you know? And then we tend to think of, well, to meditate successfully, I must take 45 minutes. No, you can meditate successfully in 5 minutes. You can do a couple rounds of a deep breathing exercise that could take 3 minutes, you know? Even when it comes to chores, because, you know, decluttering your space, and we're talking about self-care, but decluttering your space goes a lot towards decluttering your mind, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll set the timer and I'll say, let me just do a half an hour of something. And in that half an hour, I get so much accomplished. And so I think we overestimate the time that we have to dedicate towards self-care. And then we say the things like, oh, well, I don't have the time to do it. It doesn't need to be an hour and a half massage. It can be 10 minutes on the foam roller, rolling out those tight,
Natalie, this is a very
hamstrings.
simple thing. That time thing is so crucial because if I mean, we all have the benefit now of Google and there's ChatGPT. If you were to create a schedule, what are some of the things that I need to be doing? You know, the things that you actually like to do. So I want to do a cup of tea. That takes how long? How long to fix a cup of tea? Make sure you do it in the morning. Put that on there. We create that list. A cup of tea, 5 minutes looking in the mirror and checking out my skin, putting on some products, replacing the Pepsi with water, all of those things. Put them on a list. Literally put them on a list, 10 things or whatever amount of things you want to do. And if you have that list up every day, and if we're checking them off, first of all, the sense of accomplishment when we get to the end of the day, like, what did I did all this? Wow, start to feel different from the inside out right away.
Yeah.
Those things help you to realize that's the oxygen mask. That's it. It's taking that, you're doing the scrub, I can't find the time to go to the gym, but I can go on the floor in my room and do some sit-ups. Thank you, Natalie. I think we overcomplicate a lot of the things that we think we need to do. And Nikki, I have to give Natalie credit because I hadn't been going to the gym this week. I mean, I'm a gym person. I just hadn't had the time. And Natalie, this weekend, she said, Michelle, get on the ground and 10 push-ups right now. And I'm like, what? No. And I did it. And I'm like, oh my God, I did 10 push-ups. But it's just, we think it's going to take, I have to go get the new outfits for the gym and I have to go pay the gym fee and I have to go to the gym. Not really. That's nice, but it's not necessary. So sometimes, and just to create an analogy, it can just be, we don't have to take a full draw of oxygen every single morning. That's a couple of draws, but we'll have to put on our own oxygen mask.
Yeah, it's taking that pause. But, you know, to take it a step deeper is when we include, you touched on this, Natalie, with your daughter, when we include our kids in that self-care, it makes it even more powerful. So if it is a yoga class or a Pilates class, or it is to you take a walk and throw stones on a beach, if it is like what you said, Natalie, we're hanging out with her and her friends, that to me, I view that as self-care time because you get out of your busy mom mode and thinking bills to pay to just having fun and relaxing and seeing the joy of your children through their eyes. To me, that's all part of self-care. So I do recommend to moms that listen, for me personally, this Saturday gone, I had a girls' lunch with my two daughters. I have twin daughters who are 27. And I said, you know, it's been so long since the three of us have just gone and had lunch together because, you know, you grab food here and there. It's like skittish moments. And just doing that, we didn't solve life's problems, but I came back and I felt so much better. I felt
I'm
so
sure they did as well.
exactly. So being able to draw your kids into it, again, age dependent, but it could be even if you have a young kid and they're playing the video game like you did. not only did you get in there and you took your mind off of all the stuff that you've been dealing with because you had to focus on how to play the freaking game to begin with, but you're giving yourself a gift as well as him a gift. So
Absolutely.
I think it's important for women that don't, as Natalie said, don't overthink it, don't overplan it, don't think that there's 10 minutes, 5 minutes. That's all it takes a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There really is beauty in growing in spending time with your grown children in a different way. My eldest, Courtney, who's 23, somehow, I don't know if it was just seeing it, she got bit by the gym bug, right? And she works out all the time. She works out every day. And it's her sanity and it's her center and her body looks freaking amazing because of it. And I'm so proud of her. And then my next one now, Zara, she's always struggled. She's like how I was in school. Can't run because I can't breathe, out of shape, like just, and I've been encouraging and seeing the development. And this week that we were away, she came to the gym with Courtney and I, whereas normally Courtney and I would be in the gym. And in the beginning, I felt like I was dragging Zara to these classes. And then at the end of the last class before we left Miami, she said, Mommy, I wish I was taking pictures of the workouts that we were doing because I really enjoyed them. And I was like, so you feel like you're banging your head.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting it. They're absorbing.
Yeah. So I was like, don't worry, baby. I took pictures. I'll send them to you. And it just, it's that concept that we have to remind ourselves that they're struggling in their puberty years. We're struggling in our menopause years. But when our goals are aligned, when we want the best for them, and we want to be the best moms, we will get there. They will get over their puberty and we will see through our menopause and we will meet and it will be beautiful. Because it can feel like
that's beautiful. That really is, and I agree 100%. And I think that's part of how we're changing the dynamic of how we're parenting. Our parents came from there's certain things you just don't speak about. When you're learning about a period 20, 30, 40 years ago, you read it in a book. Parents didn't have these conversations. I had a period party for my daughter when she was 11. It's just, and we speak openly about it. And I speak openly about a period with my son. Those things didn't happen years ago. So we are the ones who are going to champion the changes in educating our children on the things that were issues for us. Even in talking about, the relationships. When a boyfriend comes onto the scene, I wasn't allowed to have boyfriend. Are you mad? And then I'm seeing in schools now, 13, 14-year-olds, parents dropping them off on dates. I'm like, what do you need? But it's opening up those conversations so that they're not hiding and doing things and they're not making impulsive and reckless decisions. It's all going to come out of how we engage these conversations with our children. And menopause is just a huge part of that as well. It really is something that we have to keep that door open, answer the questions, we have to learn about it so that we can reteach it. We have to learn personally. If we don't know what to make ourselves.
For me, menopause is, the wisdom in our years now. Whereas before, when we can share that with our daughters and our sons, that listen, we have a lot of experience and wisdom under our belt. Yes, it's mixed in with emotions that are going to make us maybe snappy or not snappy or, reactive. But being able to communicate with your kids, listen, I don't have all the answers. I really don't, but I do have some experience and some wisdom in my menopausal years now. So being able to communicate that in a way that empowers them rather than this is how you should do it type of verbiage.
And Nikki, I'll take it a step further. On the flip side, the other side of menopause is our aging parents, and we're getting there as well. So that's a conversation. I know that there's some children who are so close to their grandparents, and when grandparents pass, it's something they're not able to deal with. So even that is part of the emotional regulators that we have to prepare our children for. Menopause is one, death is another. It's the hard things in life. Those hard conversations it opens up the door for us to have those really hard conversations and make things relatable and communicable for our children to be able to deal with.
Yep. No, I agree. I mean, I don't think growing up, I never ever saw my father cry. I never ever saw, and he's still alive, but I
Mhm.
never ever saw my father cry because, as you said, that generation they didn't speak about that. Now, my kids, I will start bawling at a drop of a hat.
Oh, easy.
I, so easily, but my kids will
Yeah,
understand, that that is a lot of vulnerability in that, that
yeah.
allows them that if they need to cry, they know that they
They
have
can.
that space, and
Yeah.
and they do. And so that creating that bond with your child where we talked about it earlier, that vulnerability is so, so powerful in that we don't have all the answers. We are going to cry, we are going to screw up, we are going to make mistakes, but we're going to do this together.
I love that. Love that.
We're going to
Yeah,
do this
that's
together.
exactly what it's about. That's all that it's about.
Doing this together.
It helps them
I've
to
taken
manage.
so much good stuff from this conversation. I think I'm gonna have a bubble talk later.
I
All
love
right.
that one. I love the bubble one. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
man. That's a safe
not for the 23-year-old. She tell me everything thing we want but don't want to know. But for the
Mhm.
14-year-old, the one who I feel the most disconnected from, the one who I feel like the age gap is the greatest.
Mhm.
Um, I'm gonna give her the gift of the bubble. Yeah.
One of the things that I said to both of my kids at different stages in their life was, look, I'm doing my very best to parent you, and I'm open with them about my decision to be a single mother. Um, so I said to them, or I have said to them, what do you think I can do to parent you better? I want to be the best mother ever. What do you think? What would you recommend that I do? What do I need to change about my style, whatever? And both of them were consistent. Mommy, stop shouting at us
Oh, wow.
at different stages. And both of them said, and I realized that, my God, I'm a shouter. I was a
Mm.
shouter. I don't shout as much anymore, maybe because I don't have that much to shout about because they've pulled up their socks in certain respects, or maybe I've just really taken that to heart. And I try not to be a shouter anymore, but imagine having a parent who's constantly shouting at you. You're either going to
Mm.
stop talking, well, not either going to. That's what you're going to stop doing.
Yeah.
So I took my cues from that, and it's something that we can learn from our kids. What do I need to do better?
Yeah.
Mommy,
Well,
something
they
give
see
me.
us in a different set of eyes, Michelle. They see us in a different set of eyes.
Yeah,
So when we're able, as you said, to ask them, you're getting the real raw thing. They're not
yeah,
going to sugarcoat it for you. They're not going to say, oh, well, they're not going to be diplomatic. They're going to say, hey, I don't like when you
exactly.
do that.
Correct.
Mhm.
So it's for us to own those for ourselves, being aware that, okay, right, I don't
And,
really
and a
like
lot of
when
times we're only doing those things because that's what we learned from our parents. That's all we knew.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think with each generation, honestly, I think we're just becoming better parents in general. We just have to learn and look at the different mistakes that may have been made in the past and just really make a concerted effort not to make those mistakes again. No,
Yeah.
it's not difficult.
Mm-mm. It's to just own it. It's just to go in there and own your vulnerability and own your mistakes. And how can I show up better? How can I show up differently? Because
Yeah.
clearly what I'm doing in that area maybe not be working. So,
And
and
Mhm.
again,
again,
women
that
in
we're not
menopause,
perfect.
we're not perfect, but again, in menopause, that's where our strength lies as women. That is a beautiful thing. Is in women in our stage of our life, we own that strength of being able to be vulnerable, to go in and say, listen, I screwed up or you tell me what I'm doing wrong. I need to know so that I can be a better version.
Mhm.
And that's the power of to me, that's the power of menopause.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, can I drop in? Oh, see one of the children calling now.
Well, we're wrapping up now. We're wrapping up now. It's 1 o'clock. So.
I wanted to just do a shameless plug for Michelle, or give Michelle some space to do a shameless plug for herself. Michelle is one of the most amazing women that I know in terms of drawing on being a ever evolving, ever improving parent with these phenomenal brands, and everything she does about her is with the aura of excellence. And she does have an event coming up that is designed for women in business. And I'd love for you just to tell us a little bit about that, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. So Blend is it's a party, but it's a networking party for boss moms, for moms in business. It's a celebration of all of what we've gone through for this year, and it's an empowering evening where we're almost preparing ourselves to take on next year and to win next year. The goal ultimately of this event is that everybody who leaves there is supposed to know that 2025 belongs to us. It's my year. That's the year I'm going to win. Um, if I've not been winning already, and if I have been winning, I'm going to win even more next year. So Blend is about, it's a party, it's a vibe. We're celebrating a few women who are trailblazers in their fields, all boss moms. We have some boss mom awards. And those awards, it's honoring women who display the tenets of what a boss mom is. We have one is it's an award for excellence, another one is an award for community impact. One is for resilience, strength and resilience. Another is for innovation. One is for just being, it's a boss mom legacy of love. So it's 6 awards. We have to come to find out who's going to be getting them. But it's all the things that we are as boss moms being celebrated and being realizing that we can all do it. It's a food and drink inclusive event. We have wines, we'll have food, we'll have every mom who comes gets an opportunity to have her makeup done, light makeup, and then we're doing headshots for every woman, every boss mom who comes. I find that when I interact with a lot of women in business and I'm like, send me a bio, they don't have them. They don't have a bio, they don't have beautiful, they're sending me a picture that the child took on the phone. I'm like, no, we need a proper, professional bio. So we're doing shots for headshots for all the boss moms. We have a boss mom community now that's up, boss mom marketplace rather, where we have people who have doing gift certs and even the life stories there. You can get amazing products and services at discounted rates because of the Boss Mom Network. What we are is just support for women. It's things like this, having these conversations and letting each other know that we can't do it on our own. When we help each other up, we all kind of rise. A friend of mine, Emily Kaufman, told me that when we lift each other up, we all rise.
Mhm.
And that's it. We all have the same goals, you know. We look different, we sound different, we come from different backgrounds, but ultimately, we all have the same goals. We want our businesses to thrive. We want our children to grow well and to be functional citizens of this world. And we ultimately just, we want to be happy. We want some money in our pockets and love in our hearts. That's what we're all going after. So
Love
we
it,
don't need to.
Michelle. When is that event? When is
It's
that
on the
event?
12th. It's on the 12th of December. So it's next week, Thursday. Tickets are $100. As I said, food and drink inclusive, lots of fun. We have a boss mom DJ, we have a boss mom host for the night. So it's just a big vibe and lots of inspiration.
Well, please
So
send me that information because I'd love to put when I send out the replay email, I'd love to just pop that in there. So if there's a website or something, just
there
send me
is.
that in. Yeah, send me that in my WhatsApp and I'll make sure to drop that in the email.
Thank you, Nikki. It's a great night for girlfriends. So girlfriends come out and just hang out and learn and be inspired about your business and things. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for that.
Awesome. I can't wait to that. Ladies, thank you so much. I know we've gone a little bit over time, so we'll let you go, Michelle. But thank you so much. This has been an
Thank
amazing
you.
conversation. I feel so
Yeah.
much more empowered as well. And of course, for the ones watching the replay, you will have the information on how to contact Michelle. I'll put your website and all of that stuff. So if you want to take that avenue, I think that's going to be amazing.
Thank you
All
so, so much. Thank you guys. I
right,
Thank
appreciate
ladies.
it.
you.
Like platform.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you. Take care.
ladies.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.